Thank you.
All right. I believe that God can speak to us through everything around us. And for me, one of the best ways for that has always been through music. Most commonly, it's not through worship music, but through just plain old songs. For example, there is a song by Green Day that starts with the line, "I'm the son of rage and love." And that has always spoken to me, not so much in what he says in the rest of the song, but just the son of rage and love. Two emotions that are polar opposites of each other, and two emotions that have always kind of defined my life. I've always tried to walk that tightrope between those two polar opposites. I had two grandfathers that also were polar opposites. Now, they both were good men, but one was very much known for his temper, and the other was very much known for his kind heart. So maybe that makes me the grandson of rage and love. However, I grew up with my mother, my sister, my stepbrother, and my stepfather. My biological father was not in the picture, other than a random weekend here or there. But as a young kid, I not only put my father on a pedestal, but I then put that pedestal on top of Mount Everest. On the surface, he looked like he had everything. He was wealthy. He lived in a big fancy house in one of the richest areas of Richmond. He drove a fancy car. And when he did come around to see me, he would buy me something like a toy or a CD or something. And that's how he showed me that he loved me. I'm sure that he did, but I don't remember him ever actually telling me that he loved me as a kid. Just him showing me love by buying me something. And this probably explains why I overspend on people at Christmas, even though I know that I shouldn't. One Friday afternoon after school, when I was around 10 years old or so, my father was going to pick me up to spend the weekend with him. I was super excited. I told everyone at school. My suitcase had been packed for at least a week. So I got home, I sat on the front steps, and I waited for him. And I waited, and I waited. And then it started to get dark. And eventually my mother came out and sat beside me and told me that he wasn't coming. She called his house, but he wasn't there. My stepmother told my mom that he must have forgotten because he had gone to Atlanta for the weekend. As I'm writing this, I put this note, that whenever Ashley and I are packing to go somewhere, I always wait to the last minute, and it drives her crazy. But as I was writing this, I thought maybe that this is where that comes from. So around this time, I figured out that it was easier to just bury and hide my feelings and tell people that it didn't bother me. And that eventually led to me telling everyone that I didn't love my father and that he was dead to me. And I continued to tell people this from the time I was about a preteen all the way up till I was in my early 30s. I didn't even invite my father to Ashley's and my wedding. In fact, my stepfather was my best man because he took the place of being my father for me. He raised me as if I was his own son. He always called me his son, not his stepson. And when he would introduce my brother and I to people, he wouldn't say, "This is my son, Matt, and my stepson, Austin." He just told them, "These are my boys." So he was my best man because he is the best man that I know. Shortly after Ashley and I got married in 2012, I lost my job. So I took a job with Orkin Pest Control, and that was my job until I found a job. But one of the places that was a customer that I went to treat was the Baptist Church in downtown West Point. And one of the rooms that I would go into to spray was the choir room. And painted on the wall there is the 10 Commandments. And right at my eye level when I walked into the room was honor thy mother and father. And I would always say to myself, kind of with a chuckle, well, honor thy mother, well, that's easy peasy. But why would I honor my father when he has never honored me? Sometimes we can get caught up in our own minds that maybe we don't realize that we've put ourselves as the judge. Or maybe we're just so lost that we don't care that we've become the judge. Also, during this time, Ashley and I were newlyweds and we were trying to start a family, and it's just not happening. Infertility runs on Ashley's side of the family, and it is a fear that neither of us would say out loud, but it was always in the back of our minds. And becoming parents is something that we both wanted very badly. I've been telling myself for as long as I can remember, since I was around 10 years old, that one day when I'm a father, I will not let my future kids know the pain and hurt that I know and that I went through. I was so bitter, angry, mad at the world, mad at God. I can remember hearing different news stories where people neglected or mistreated their children. And I would get so mad, and I would ask, why would God bless them with children, but not Ashley and me? There were times that I was deep into the abyss. There were times that I considered that maybe everyone would be better off if I was just gone, like George Bailey at the beginning of It's a Wonderful Life kind of gone. So fast forward to December of 2015. I've been living in a mindset like this for about 3 years, and I've bounced around from one job to the next because there's always something wrong with them. Of course, it's never me, it's always them. Even if it was always the same thing that was wrong, that obviously it's them, it was never me. But in December of 2015, I took notice to something that my sister had done for a couple of years. Instead of making a New Year's resolution each year, she would make a list of things that she either wants to start doing or to stop doing, and she calls it her 15 things for 2015, or 16 things for 2016, and so on. So this year would be 22 things for 2022. So I decided that I will do the same thing. And one of my 15 things for 2015 was to start reading the Bible every day. But I wasn't really sure how to go about it. But as luck would have it, I happened to come across a year-long daily devotional by Joyce Myers, and I meant to bring the book and I forgot, sorry, that a friend of mine on Facebook would take a picture of each day's message and she posted it. So I asked for it and I got the book for Christmas, and I started on January 1st. I started doing the same thing with reading it and posting it and applying the power thought of each day to my day. After about a week of doing this, I'm driving to work one Sunday, which is now at a furniture store in Newport News, and Ashley and I have been saying that we would like to find a church, but we haven't found the one yet that we would like to start going to. But on Sundays, when I'm driving to work, I started to listen to a religious radio station as a way to be a part of a worship service. But on this one Sunday, I'm listening and the guy is talking about if it wasn't for the troubles in life, then we wouldn't appreciate the treasures. And I thought, wow, that's really good. I should try to remember that. And then he wraps up his sermon and he goes straight into the Lord's Prayer. And I hear the words, "Forgive us our trespasses as we forgive those who trespass against us." And I've heard and said this 1,000,001 times, but I think this was the first time I actually understood the words. And I thought to myself, how in the world can I ever hope to become a father if I can't forgive my father? And as soon as those words ran through my head, the radio station started to play Amazing Grace. And I just started to cry my eyes out as I'm driving. And I said out loud, "Dad, I love you, I miss you, I forgive you, and I'm sorry." For so long, I would tell everyone that would listen that my father was dead to me. And then, on Christmas morning in 2013, he passed away alone in a tiny apartment in a rough area of Richmond. Now, like I said, on the surface, my father looked like he had everything, money and fancy things. However, under the surface, he battled depression, alcohol, and drug abuse, as well as being bipolar. And over the course of his life, he had lost the possessions that he thought would bring him happiness. My father had extreme highs, but he also had extreme lows. His life was a battle between emotional polar opposites. So I am my father's son, the son of rage and love. However, my father died before I could ever tell him that I loved him, that I missed him, that I forgave him, and that I was sorry. So now I say this each night when I say my prayers for God to let him know. So, back to being there in the car on that Sunday morning, I forgave my father, and each day after that, I continued to do the book of Power Thoughts each day. Now, a few years before all of this, I attended a leadership conference, and one of the things that really stuck out from that was that in order to create a new habit, it takes doing it 21 times or 21 days in a row. So I began this book on January 1st, 2016, and on January 21st, 2016, Ashley took a test and we found out we were pregnant. God always knew the plans that he had for me. My Heavenly Father knew that I needed to find peace in my heart and forgive my earthly father. And once I was able to truly do that, I was then able to become a father myself. And even though I may still struggle walking that tightrope between love and rage, I know in my heart that if I completely put my faith and trust in God, I know if I completely put my trust and faith in God, that the tightrope that I'm so worried about will expand into a path that is well lit and clearly shows the footsteps that Jesus has left for me to follow.